There's too much supply, which obviously lowers prices. There's more supply because China is a robust industry. China has a robust industrial base, and they produce too many things. And when you produce too many things, the price of things goes down because there's no scarcity. If you outproduce the demand, then prices are going to go down. Is the exchange rate reasonable? Overall cost of the trip manageable besides the flight? No, the trip is insanely expensive. Okay, it is. We are spending a lot of money, straight up. Even if like a lot of the stuff that you can purchase, like you can do a much cheaper China trip than the way we're doing it. We are rolling everywhere with a car. We got security. We got tour guides everywhere we go. China is very affordable. Otherwise, we're not doing that. Yeah, top hotels, rides everywhere. I mean, yeah, look, this is beautiful scenery. How much was the Adidas jacket? That's all I need from China. I don't know. Is it expensive compared to doing the same thing in other countries? No, it's cheaper. No, it's much cheaper. Things cost much less in China. Here, we're in Shanghai, okay? Probably one of the most expensive housing markets in China, okay? Shanghai is one of the most expensive housing markets in China. It's very high demand. A lot of Westerners live here. A lot of commerce takes place here. A lot of businesses here, okay? And in Shanghai, I asked our tour guide last night, not even one of the most. Okay, thank you. Exactly. He said the average rent for 100 square feet apartment, which is somewhat sizable, right? I think by Chinese standards, the average not square feet, sorry, square meter, 100 square meter. I apologize. I forget. I'm not in the land of freedom no more. I can't be using freedom units. Anyway, okay. What the F is a meter? Anyway, 100 square meter apartamento in Shanghai. In Shanghai, which is the most expensive real estate market, is around $2,600. Like, imagine New York City or San Francisco. It's just not. It's not even. And that's like expensive. That's an expensive apartment, right? So it's very expensive in comparison to the rest of China. Depending on from tier 1 to tier 4, you can go to like a tier 2 city, a tier 3 city, and your entire year's rent would be $1,000, for the record. I'm not saying it's not affordable, but comparing without a PPP adjustment is apples to oranges. Yes, obviously, the wages are obviously much lower in China in comparison to America as well. Except with the PPP adjustment, Shanghai is impossible to afford for the average Chinese person. Having said that, the affordability in China is far better than America. So, I mean, that is clear, right? I think we all know that, right? If anything, the reason why people keep talking about PPP is purchasing power parity, for those of you who don't know. But one of the things that people constantly talk about in China is going to collapse, the economy is going to collapse, is because things are too affordable. Yeah, China has deflation. Prices are going down, but the wages are not. That's ideal for people that make wages without debt. If you notice, like, if you read any Western analysts about like what is the new problem in China, when they find something every other week, the problem that they say exists in China is that wages are fine, like they're relatively flat, they've grown, whereas things are too affordable. I know it sounds crazy, but they say that it's bad for growth because it's bad for growth because price increases don't take place in China, and therefore there's too much purchasing power, and people actually take on instead of taking on debt, they unironically hold too much money. They save too much and don't spend enough. Here is a video on this exact phenomena. While the rest of the world battles inflation, China is facing a consumer prices that are just too low.
China's economy is facing a new threat. While most of the world battles inflation, China is grappling with consumer prices that are just too low. And it could be worse than the official numbers.
It just sounds it sounds so crazy. And perhaps it's one of the greatest indications that economists are ops. Because from the perspective of the average person, if money is fake and it's just like a way to circulate and a way to stimulate the economy, okay, you look at this and you're like, what's the problem then? They could just like tweak the dials, right? The government could just like tweak the dials and make sure that they can avoid certain shortfalls. And China has been able to do that over and over again, which is precisely the reason why every other week there's another article being like, China is going to, at the collapse, the collapse of China is imminent. The collapse of China is imminent. And they're just like, don't collapse. And then people just move on to the next thing. And this is the next thing, right? But it is this assessment in and of itself is a capitalist one, and one that unfortunately is stunted. You have these horse blinders on where you think in this capitalist hegemonic way, where you think, well, this doesn't make sense from a capitalist perspective. Like, if this happened in a capitalist country that has a decentralized structure, then it would just fail. It would be an abject failure. And yeah, I understand that. I get it. Except that's just not how China operates.
China's official consumer inflation data offers limited detail, and it's not entirely clear how it's tracked. Bloomberg tracks 67 everyday items and found that prices are falling in 51 of them. And the pain is spreading. A brutal price war is breaking out across China's entire economy. If one company starts cutting prices...
Yes, money is only about resource distribution is correct. Exactly. And if your goal is to get the resources in the hands of as many people as possible, then these kinds of things are not a problem. Do you understand?
Their competitors have no choice but to follow. The result? Falling prices, collapsing profits, and no one wins. That phenomenon is called involution, but essentially it's about the fundamental imbalance between supply and demand.
There's too much supply, which obviously lowers prices. There's more supply because China is a robust China has a robust industrial base, and they produce too many things. And when you produce too many things, the price of things goes down because there's no scarcity. If you outproduce the demand, then prices are going to go down. Okay? That's what they're talking about. It's just like the prices are too good for the average Chinese. Like, you're not a capital owner. You're not a capitalist. You're not a capital owner. You're just a wage laborer, right? And if you're just a wage laborer, from your perspective, you're like, okay, things are just more affordable. Things are just cheaper. I don't care if there's this like imminent fear of collapse. I don't think you understand economics. You can ask my previous employer, the Lehman Brothers. Yeah. My steak is too juicy. My lobster too buttery. It's bad. It's bad. We must put an end to it. It's too good, bro. You wouldn't like it. Hey, there's a term for it. It's called involution. What if the economy collapses because things are too affordable for the working poor? This is a bad thing. Okay?
This is a competition problem. It completely crushes corporate earnings and slams workers' paychecks. 5% of Chinese listed companies made a loss. That's the highest percentage this century. And in 2024, a third of companies cut jobs. This shows China is in a deep deflationary spiral. If consumers stop spending, businesses stop investing, the economy slows down, and debt piles up. Beijing is trying to hit the brakes. In July, President Xi Jinping and his top lieutenants ordered a crackdown on excessive consumption. But with the property slump deepening and consumers too nervous to spend,
Bro, you don't understand. It's stupid to buy food for yourself today if tomorrow the food is going to be cheaper. Yeah. It's just like economists, I feel like, despite being human beings, economists oftentimes operate as though they are not in their analysis. And it's interesting because the entire economy is still geared around people. And people are never going to be rational actors anyway. Like, they're not robots. So I don't understand what this analysis is supposed to do, especially if you have a different vision or a different mechanism, a different method of governance. These sorts of issues might come up, but they are easier to solve with central planning.
Experts think the government's fix won't even...
Yeah. Involution is mostly relevant in free market economies where state does not actively stimulate demand with non-profitable state contracts and regulate sectors with price controls. That's the issue. They're still operating under this faulty assessment of well, China is a capitalist country, or whenever they want to fearmonger about China, they'll say it's communist. But whenever they want to talk about like the Chinese economy, they're like, well, it's a capitalist country. It's a capitalist country. It's like, well, they kind of wear, the way I describe it to Americans is kind of like they wear capitalism like a sleeve, right? Instead of previous methods of central planning, like previous formations of centralized planning in a command economy, the Chinese central planning revolves around controlling flows of capital. There is still obviously a lot of intervention and a lot of moving people into a certain direction, right? Moving sectors or focusing on different sectors when there is need for it, need and planning that takes place far before the economy moves in that direction. But this is just how the system works. It's not an accident that you can purchase like a fairly reliable electric vehicle in China for the cost of an expensive NVIDIA a GPU, you know? Like, it's crazy. That didn't happen out of nowhere. That happened because the government was like, we want to focus. We want to electrify our entire grid. We want to focus on we're the number one, we are the monopoly when it comes to the global monopoly when it comes to, you know, solar panels and renewable energies. And we want to make sure that our entire grid is less reliant on fossil fuels in general, and instead reliant on renewable energies. And therefore, they let 1,000 flowers bloom in terms of EV manufacturing for the last like decade. And the results are that they have this incredible manufacturing base for electric vehicles. Obviously, they are far too competitive in their pricing for European markets, and in an effort not to destroy their own domestic manufacturing sectors, the European markets try to limit the amount of Chinese EVs that can enter their marketplaces, and America just outright bans it, as you guys know. But this is what's going on.
Move the needle. Our tracking suggests prices in China are set to fall for the third year in a row in 2025. This is the world's second largest economy. The longer prices stay low, the greater the risk that growth will stall for years, even decades.
Here's another one from The Economist on the same topic a couple days ago. I can't watch this. This is a TikTok clip. Send me something else. Yeah. It feels like their solution to this is a single national market that will standardize rules and regulation to break down regional barriers has moved up on Beijing's agenda. Recent reforms focus on clearer property rights, easier flows of labor and capital, and improved judicial oversight of local law or local enforcement. The new private economy promotion law helps level the playing field for public and private firms while central authorities tighten oversight. The 15th five-year plan will reveal the next steps. You're actually wrong. It's better for the government to provide incentives like the EV rebate instead of increased supply. Oh, man. It's isn't that funny? Yeah, no, that's how it's supposed to work. You're right. Oh, yeah. White people don't like the Dems with Jessica Tarkoff, Hassan Piker, Tim Miller, and Simone Sanders. 9 hours ago, it got released. Gotta love all the white people constantly defending the racism Zoran had to face in this campaign as if it wasn't completely obvious to any brown person, Muslim or not, that it was all hysterical fear-mongering. Holy shit, this was brutal. Further exhibits that liberals will stop at nothing to undermine the leftists or truly working-class issues. Why people don't like the Dems. Brought to you by Walmart. Notice how uncomfortable everyone gets when Hassan talks about basic lefty policies. Jessica looks surprised when people start clapping. Have to admit, as someone who voted for Democrats, I'm starting to side with the leftists. Moderates, I'm now realizing, aren't the adults in the room. They think they are. They're your grandma giving anachronistic financial and life advice. It seems like compromise and moderation only brings forth watered down policy and decisions that hurt the party's credibility. I chanted, this is what democracy looks like at no kings. But between the electoral college and the heavily gerrymandered rural propaganda GOP base, not to mention the capitulating Democratic Party leadership, I'm starting to realize this is what failed democracy looks like. All my life, Democrats have almost always won the popular vote, but between the Brooks Brothers riot and the insurrection, they're somehow powerless. Either they're controlled opposition or incompetent. Either way, we need a complete tear down. Oh my God. This is what I mean, brother. This is why I go on the Podjons, okay? This is why I will always go on the Podjons. This is why I will always go on these sorts of outlets and these sorts of places. You know what sucks about being a leftist, which means that you're usually right just too early, is that once people come to terms with this, there are a whole bunch of other things that I'm also advocating for that they're still not as open-minded on. Like the example is China. For like, I'm literally sitting inside of the example, right? You will see this happen. A lot of younger generations are not going to be as aggressive toward China, and we're already seeing that. I Show Speed has done a wonderful thing. But while a lot of people are finally starting to agree with this, like, Democrats need to be more aggressive, Democrats need to actually fight back, Democrats need to be centering the working class in their politics and be unafraid to fight back, to push back, and then their base will reward them, and that the establishment Democrats are actually lying to you when they say moderation is key, moderation is actually the way to win. They're finally coming to terms with that conclusion, but they will still probably be very resistant to someone like myself saying, like, well, we could learn some lessons from the way China governs itself, right? Like, especially when it comes to building a robust industrial base or the heavy-handed regulatory mechanisms that exist, the checks and the controls that exist that move not in the direction of hyper profits or super profits, but more so in the direction of improving people's material conditions. Like, when I say stuff like that, they go, whoa, okay, I was with you with the Democratic Party thing, but I'm not with you on this side. And I just hate that I have to wait 5 years for people to come to that conclusion as well. You know what I mean? But that's just how it is. That's how it always has been. I hate to be repetitive, but this is why I think we can do your approach while also building up a third party, because there are some impermissible things that a third party could accomplish. Sure, I mean, build it. Yeah, I'm a British guy, but this video really helped me understand why some leftists really want a third party. The panel, except Hassan, seem to want to maintain status quo and not address real causes of inequality whilst ignoring economic populism. The part that blew my mind is how they acted and Hassan spoke blasphemy for talking about Israel, shaking my hand. I was appalled when the lady in glasses said the last 10 minutes was not fun after Hassan talked about Israel. It was ridiculous. It's not exactly fun for Palestinians being killed in genocide. How can you be a party for the left and common people in support and be in support of Israel? Are we supposed to follow suit? The heartless Republicans get it? Yeah. Hassan made good point after good point after good point in this panel, and I can't even link some of his points. And I can even link some of his points, and almost every time he gets countered or disagreed with by the others on the panel. And then even at the end, they talked about Big Tent politics, but how they aren't socialists, they aren't communists, and democratic socialists aren't really socialists, which implies that they are okay because they aren't actually socialists. The leftists are welcome. They will celebrate Mamdani's win because he's under the Democrat banner. But when it really comes down to it, they don't want leftists in their tent. They would rather have Republicans and former Republicans and Liz Cheney and a Fox News attitude towards politics than just fucking advocate for populist policy. Yeah, yes. It seems like they'd have an aneurysm every time Hassan brought up Israel. I don't remember. I mean, I gave you guys I told you, like, it felt strange every time I brought up Israel because, like, everyone would go, oh, don't do that, you know? It did feel like that. And I guess, like, the audience read it in the same way as well. But yeah, this is my method. You might disagree with it. You might think it's foolish. You might think it's stupid. You might think it's unproductive. But this is my method, okay? You must go to where the masses are. You cannot organize and mobilize with an imagined proletariat that already has the revolutionary spirit in their hearts. You must organize where the masses are. You must shape your message. You do not have to lie and hide that you are a socialist if you are one, or a communist if you are one, okay, or a Marxist if you are one. Having said that, you must structure, you must never compromise on your values, but you must always structure your message in a way that is receptive, okay? Because if you believe that Americans are heavily propagandized and that they, if they were not so heavily propagandized against concepts such as socialism due to the success of the Red Scare, right? If you feel like Americans, like the average American would be much more understanding of socialist policies and principles if they were to recognize their own class consciousness, then you have to speak to them not as enemies, not as ideological enemies that are attacking you because they have a vision or they have a better standing in liberal capitalist democracy, and that's the reason why they're fucking pushing for it. But instead, because they've just been heavily propagandized. That's just what it is. And the same principle goes for even MAGA. We must not be enemies, but friends. Yes, all men are brothers. If I'm at an orgy, how do I tailor my communist message there? You listen, whatever your abilities are in terms of your output in an orgy is what you put out. And you take what you need, okay? You take what you need and you give what you can give. Sharing is caring. And this principle is applied everywhere in your life. Okay? The proper response was no loads refused. I mean, some are come hungry, and they say to all around them that I can yield those loads, I produce those loads for me, I will never refuse them. Okay? But for others, they might actually have to refuse some loads after a while. And that is always going to be the main driving force behind socialist principles in an orgy. Some can take on all loads. Others can take on some loads. Right? The point is, you do what you can and you take what you need. Is he throwing up lemons on screen? This was crazy. Every time another train would pass, there would be like this crazy noise. And I don't know how Haas did this. Lemons on screen. He would literally, as the bullet train was passing by, he would whiz a lemon, bro. Wow. Damn, the delay is pretty crazy. Wow. Oh, I just saw. That's crazy. Mi limonchito lindo. Lemon Bro is pretty funny. I'll tell you. It's good. Yeah, I can't believe he did that. That is so wild. What is this? Oh, we got the Crooked Con. We got the playlist. We got Epstein emails. We talked about the Chinese methods. Oh, you can't insist that China has to lower its emissions and then later complain that China isn't putting cheap EVs all over the world. If you are worried about climate, China's green tech exports is good news. It's the COP president, Andre Correa do Lago. A flood of green tech from China is upending global climate politics. A flood of green tech from China is upending global climate politics. At this year's climate summit, the United States is out and Europe is struggling, but emerging countries are embracing renewable energy thanks to a glut of cheap equipment. This is like a very interesting take. It's a very interesting perspective because it's honest reporting because it's meeting. Remember, mainstream outlets, obviously, at the end of the day, still have a duty to inform their audiences. And if your goal is to inform your audience, you have to every now and then say the truth about foreign adversaries and what they're doing right. And the New York Times is one of my favorite outlets to read on Chinese stuff because they will be like, China has yielded an explosive growth of renewable energy all around the world, but at what cost? Like, they'll be like, China cured cancer, but at what cost? Like, they would just straight up be like, yeah, this is good, but also, have we considered that this actually makes China look too good and we don't like that? Or what about our super profits? Oftentimes that is the counter. Oftentimes that is the argument. Okay? Isn't that more like the Wall Street Journal? I mean, there is not a lot of daylight between New York Times and Wall Street Journal when it comes to covering China. Also, speaking of China, one of the things I wanted to show you is Shanghai has been the special economic zone in China far before China developed to the degree that it did, right? So it was always one of the more developed areas. That's why there's this area called Bund, which is the colonial sector, basically, where like all of the Western style buildings are. Okay. And what's really remarkable about it is, here it is. Since the sun is in Shanghai now, here's a picture of Pudong, Shanghai in 1990 versus 2010. Pudong was once a ghost city. Now it's the financial center of Shanghai with 5+ million inhabitants. Okay. And that's since 2010. It's even grown. It's exploded in size since then. So this side of the river, this right here, was already developed far before anywhere else was, right? In China. It was already a developed part. It was like an entry point, special economic zone, entry point into the Chinese markets by Western capitalists, right? There was nothing here. And now, and I'm on this side right now. I'm literally right here somewhere. Like I'm here somewhere. But I'm looking at, oh wait, no, I'm not. No, I'm actually over here. Sorry. I literally am like right there, I think, on the other side of the river. I'm on the new side. Okay. I was here on the old side last night. I'm on the new side somewhere around here. Okay. And this is the story of China in general. Like, no matter where you go, this is how it is. Don't leak your location. The fuck? I mean, it's pretty safe. What was the time difference there? I think China only has one time zone. It's just no matter where you go. I'm pretty sure it's just Beijing time. But it's 7 a.m. here. Whereas while it is 7 a.m. here, it is 3 p.m. in Los Angeles. Playlist updated. Sky News got a recent video about the Epstein emails. Okay, thank you. Damn, dog, I just got a fucking Google notification that you were detained in China. That did not happen. Guys, I don't understand this. I'm an American citizen. I live in the United States of America. Why the fuck would the media lie about such an easily observable thing? I don't get it. Do they think I don't have the capacity to tell people that that's not the case? Like, what is going on? What the hell is going on? Yeah, I'm in a Chinese prison right now. This is what it is, I guess. Or it's a pre-recorded stream. It doesn't make any sense, dude. But it's kind of funny because a big part of my job is media criticism and trying to instill media literacy in my audience. What's been interesting is I've covered the way that Western press covers China in general, but I never, perhaps I was foolish for this, but I never imagined that I would be at the center of a story like that. You know? Would you be able to compare it to the city you're in? To any other city outside of China you've been to? I mean, Chinese cities are very different in many ways. But if we're being really real, okay, I would say Ashley tweeted, it's real. It is a real Google push notification. We got to chill. This is wild. Hassan Piker was detained during a China live stream. What the fuck? What is happening? Western communist sympathizer gets a taste of real communism as a Western journalist wet dream. Yeah, but what do you mean? But it didn't happen. What is happening? Okay, sure. I understand that. Like that's like a very cool for the China beat, for all of the reporters reporting from Taipei, that this is a fantastic opportunity for them, right? To like write this article to be like, oh yeah, Hassan gets fucking destroyed by his own vision for a better tomorrow. Like, yeah, guess what, idiot? But that's not a thing that if it happened, then sure, right? Write about it all day. But that's not what took place. As someone who has been detained by the American government, what took place was not that. I like how no one reached out to you for comment. Yeah, because if they did, I'd be like, you're a fucking idiot. I'm literally streaming right now. What is happening? I'm streaming. I'm doing IRLs out and about. Like, they're gonna be like, the Chinese government has actually limited his movement in free movement in the country. If I've learned anything from this stream, it's that truth and reality don't matter at all. I know, but it's such a stupid thing to lie about because it's just like observable reality. Even the thing that people are talking about with like, oh, I don't really feel any sense of patriotism for America. What's really funny about that? What's really funny about that is like, I was just saying, like, I don't fully understand why, like, I don't understand the significance of the flag raising ceremony because there are a lot of patriotic Chinese people. And I was saying, like, if there was a similar thing that took place in America, right? Like, this is not something I would participate in. And I was just saying that, like, I don't have this sense of patriotism in me. It's not for me, but I found it very interesting to observe this experience for many others, and I try to comprehend like what motivates people to feel this way, what motivates people to have a sense of pride. And it's really interesting that they just like clipped it to be like, Hasan waving the Chinese flag says he doesn't have any patriotism for America. And it's like, I feel like even that backfires on a lot of people, because they're like, I've seen a lot of people comment on that being like, yeah, I don't feel any patriotism towards America either. Have you seen our government? Like, the point I was making wasn't that. Guttural social credit, tofu drag, debt trap, diplomacy. We are very much used to the Western snake tongue. Now you're experiencing it personally. What a great thing to share. I mean, what are you talking about, Top G? This has been my fucking political career. You are pretty patriotic towards the Ottoman Empire. No, I'm not. That's a meme. How do you reach out to someone who's detained though? True. That's true. You can't reach out to me because I was obviously detained and arrested and in prison. They did technically restrict your movement. You are not allowed on military bases. True. Also true. Hasan, when did you say you don't have patriotism? You were detained and were never there to say it? Can't believe China wasted their money on this frivolous spectacle when they could have just been trafficking guns to Sunni radicals in Syria, bombing fishermen in Venezuela, or shooting down missionary planes in Peru. Exactly. Much better way to use your funds, man. I don't understand what this drone shit looks like. All right. Speaking of not feeling a sense of patriotism in my heart, I'm going to show you two things. This is a 1 minute and 25 second Shanghai evolution from 1978 to 2019, a time lapse. Okay. This is part of the reason why Chinese people do feel patriotic. Okay. Here, let's take a look at this. And then I'll show you why, even though patriotism isn't for me necessarily, this makes it extra hard to feel any kind of patriotic about the United States of America. You feel me? Does that make you understand? Nah, bro, this is propaganda. I know. Okay, but have you considered watching this with scary music instead of hopeful music? True. Once again, doing propaganda. It's just the work speaks for itself, right? It's just undeniable. You cannot argue with results. And that is the problem. Hasan, as a member of the Communist Youth League, I recommend you visit the site of the First National Congress of the Communist Party of China. It's of great historical significance. Yes. I wanted to. I was supposed to today, but they said we can't stream it, I don't think. Also, I got to do some fun shit too for everybody else. That's fun shit for me, right? That's fun shit for me, but we got to give treats to everybody else. You feel me? Like, we already were in Beijing. I already enjoyed my time. And I want, if it were up to me, like coming here, I think with Alex and Alexa, Boy and I did a thing, or like Brace Belden and Alex and Alexa would probably yield very different results, if you know what I mean. But I think it's fun. It's fun to experience all this stuff with friends. I missed meeting you, and it's all good, King. Next time. Highly recommend going to Shanghai Urban Planning Museum. It is a scale model of Shanghai that takes up the whole floor of the museum. Have you gone to a vintage Marxist store yet? No. But the team here that I'm working with got me a copy of the Red Book that is from like, that's super old, and it's very, very exciting. It's like a literal artifact. And I wanted to get it.